Rough start for the offense in Greenbrier. Is it time to not only worry about Nick Haley and his offense, but also CJ Stroud? Let's keep it real on today's Locked On Texans podcast.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Better Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texan podcast is for Texan fans all around. Thank you to my everydayers coming back. Everydayers from the Himalayas. First time listening? Well, I am your Locked On Texans podcast host, Texas Credential Media member, and football analyst John Hickman. And today's show is all about, is it time? Is it time to go into panic mode? Is it time to be more concerned with CJ Stroud's growing pains going into year 3 in the NFL? Only 23 years old, but year 1 into a entirely new offense. And is it time to just completely worry about the offense in general? Because the glass is half full while the defense is dominating. That's kind of given. Like, we're not worried about the defense not being great. They got players like Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, all-pro cornerback Derek Stingley, Kamari Lasser, Kalen Bullock. They got some great guys. They got some dogs on the defensive side of the ball, but it just was a rough start in Greenbrier for the Houston Texans offense. Reports from the traveling media out of Greenbrier were not positive for the Texans offense. First, projected starting left tackle Cam Robinson went down with an injury in the first play of team drills. He got up but was favoring his leg. With him out, Ariante Arisari moved over to left tackle. Titus Howard bumped over to right tackle. Juke Scruggs came in at right guard per Sam Warren. Multiple drop passes during the first day, including drop passes from Nico Collins, who's kind of been underwhelming at this point. With Nico, we've seen him not necessarily struggle with drop passes, in the past in real NFL games. But right now, during training camp, he's kind of been, Dalton Schultz also has some drop passes on the day, including Brevin Jordan. Guys were not having a good time, and, the ability to show that they're able to get open day one per reports. And CJ Gardner-Johnson, pick-6. And when he gets his hands on the ball, he's letting everybody around know about it. Per DJ Miami, to end practice, the Texans offense did a 2-minute drill. First team offense got stopped inside the 5. CJ Stroud intercepted by Aziz. Second team offense, Davis Mills threw a pick to EJ Speed. And third team offense, led by Graham Mertz, who have quietly, I think, done a better job securing that QB3 role compared to Slovis. He also threw an interception that turned out to be a pick-6. Not a lot of encouraging news from the offense. I want you guys to hear from D'Amico Ryans on his thoughts on the progression of the offense to this point in training camp.
In the same vein as I said for the defense, our offense is getting better. That's training camp. I talk about it all the time. I'm not just throwing out a term, but when I talk about iron sharpening iron, if everybody brings their best every single day, we will all get better. We're still one team. We're going to go out and compete against another team. We are making each other better here. Our offense is making our defense better. Defense is making our offense better. And that's what training camp is all about. So I'm very, excited to see where our guys are. And really, I'm excited to see them go play against someone else. It's becoming that time of camp where it starts to get a little chippy. Guys are tired of going against each other. So I'll be excited, when the end of the week comes and we're able to go against Minnesota.
I'm also looking forward to their first preseason game. The Houston Texans getting an opportunity to play against Minnesota. They should take that personal. But I do want to add, here on the Locked On Texans podcast, if there were some good moments, I'm going to give you some good moments. It wasn't all bad. Do want to highlight that Ariante Arisari is still quietly looking good out there, becoming better and better, having having good reps against 2 top 100 edge players. The tight end unit, they did have some drops on the day, but Dalton Schultz has some redeemable moments, per Jonathan Alexander, who also tweeted CJ found Jalen Noel for a good game. That connection seems to be coming along faster than Stroud and Jaden Higgins, who was the Texans' first pick in the 2025 draft. Me being optimistic about how long or when this offense will click is one thing, but I have to be real about what I've seen and what I read from camp reports, and that is this offense is not good right now. And as much as I talk about this being a Super Bowl championship type of team, and much as the Houston Texans are operating in that, will they get over the hump to get to an AFC championship game? A lot of us consider the Houston Texans to be a top 4 to 5 AFC team in the NFL. With all of that talk, we have to remember that football is played and won on 3 levels: defense, offense, special teams. Right now, Houston has 2 of the 3 needed to make a real run. Right now. But what's been the most concerning for me has been the lack of fire from the offense. Not firepower like explosive plays, just the lack of fight. Good fighters. If you're a boxing fan, UFC fan, if you just watch fights on YouTube, maybe your World Star days, but good fighters who may be in a fight and losing at least will fight harder to have some sense of pride about themselves. And while this team is in the early to now midway part of getting into Nick Caley's offense, and not one point have I myself or read reports of the offense taking it personal. Not just saying that they're taking it personal, but also showing emotion behind it. I have been waiting on the first preseason game before we can truly go in on what this team is for real and what the identity of this team will be. And we should all expect to see and should see first team offense out there for at least hopefully 2 drives. But the direction the Texans are heading is discouraging at this point in the process. CJ Stroud has had it the hardest, I think so, of everybody on the offensive side of the ball, learning a new offense, learning new players, learning new scheme, and also being the lead man as this team's franchise quarterback. My thoughts on CJ Stroud and where he is now, up next on the Locked On Texans podcast. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here. That means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and some of the greatest listeners and viewers in the world, the Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, we will be having a Locked On Texans Fantasy League hosted on Yahoo Fantasy. And you should too if you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Whether you're all in on something new or you like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo has got you covered. One of my favorite features, the new Guillotine Leagues. They just dropped every week. The lowest scored team is eliminated, and the last one standing wins. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days through August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now is the perfect time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. I want to give you guys an update. Christian Harris and Damian Pierce were in Greenbrier. They were off to the side practicing, but per reports, the movements did look good. This is per DJ Bieniemy, who was out there doing a great job for ESPN covering the Houston Texans. So that's encouraging. I think so. But CJ Stroud, to get back to the conversation, CJ Stroud has had some growing pains. And the thought process right now for me is, and how I'm looking at it is, how long will it take for Stroud to get over them? What I've seen from Stroud at camp and per reports, multiple interceptions, and from my eyes to your ears, a good number have been just completely bad reads or lethargic throws, low energy, And in fairness to him, flustered a lot with pressure coming from every angle and in his face, which has led to CJ Stroud having to pull the ball down and take off. Listen to Stroud talk about scripted plays and the offense having good moments. Listen to him right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like for me, I just try to look at it as the game is like play what I see and let my instincts, like I think I'm a very instinctual player and I'm very thoughtful pre-snap. But once the ball snapped, like try to play with instincts and like feel rotation, feel coverage, and whatever that looks like, and also feel the pocket. So it's a lot to do, but done it for a little minute now, and I'm getting better when it comes to the NFL process of ripping one if one's there, taking two. You can shortcut to five, go to five. Like there's things that you do when you just get more mature in the game. And I'm only 23 and I'm still learning a lot. So just trying to get better in those things. So just learning from the times where I should have checked it down instead of running, or should have ran instead of checked it down, or vice versa. Am I seeing that?
Yeah, are you starting to see that with the five guys?
Yeah, it takes time, especially, the first couple of days you're not no pass, so it's not always easy. And I think that's the best D-line in football right now, with just how they're getting off the ball. Two edge guys, Will and Daniil are, crazy athletes, but, they rush together, they rush as a unit. I think it's just making us number better, but, I think you don't want to just continue to, just say the defense is good. You want to start seeing progress and seeing plays being made. And I think we've seen that these last couple of days. So it's helpful for me to, start going through reads and be able to go through my full progression when the O-line's, picking everything up. And I think they've done a great job of just continue to work and keeping their head up, staying confident, because it's not easy going against those guys every day, and I get that. But, we have trust that our guys are very talented, too, on the offensive side of the ball.
CJ Stroud talking about the difference in, scripted plays in practice and, if he's seen some offensive line good moments. And one thing that he mentioned in terms of talking about the scripted plays was he's a very instinctual guy. And I think that's the perfect way for us to continue this conversation. Like those mental reps, I think, have started to get to him because instinctually he's having to learn something differently after 2 years. So when judging CJ Stroud, and I've said it for a long time, the first 6 weeks of the NFL season for the Houston Texans will be incredibly difficult. Once they get to the bye week, I think the Houston Texans will have a perfect sample size of where they need to go to. If they need to improve an area, if they need to maybe look for a trade, or if they need to maybe move on from a guy, maybe give another guy on the roster more burn, more reps. But for CJ Stroud, instinctually, that is where I think he is struggling right now. That's not a bad thing to say, simply because the Houston Texans are asking him to do more on his offense. He mentioned, pre-snap reads and then post-snap, then you'll see him kind of flow a little bit easier. And again, instinctually, he'll understand when to rip it, when to pull it down, when to check down, when to take off. With that being said, I think he's just learning something new. What was kind of messed up about it is I remember asking CJ about the offense at one point during this past season, and he mentioned he's always liked the two teams. He's always liked two teams. And those two teams were the Rams with Stafford and the Patriots in their history, right? And, well, now here it is. The learning curve has impacted him from a mental standpoint. Maybe learning how to be more vocal is a challenge for him, but also with the expectation of this team and how this team is operating in the championship window. And as he's mentioned, he's only 23 years old. There may also be some frustration with how maybe this roster was handled in the offseason, more than having to learn this new offense. Not a lot of bright spots consistently through camp. However, as a team lead, man, this is the job. This is the job, man. And here on the Locked On Texans podcast, I love to be fair. I love to be critical. But I love to keep it real. I have seen CJ operate differently when I'm out there. Again, a lot of lethargicness. And my wonder, this is not coming from anybody else. This is just from what I am seeing. My wonder right now is, where is he on the playbook? Where is he right now? Where's the relationship right now with Nick Caley? I know when Nick Caley first got here, he said they had a a growing relationship. They're, getting together, call him, he'll call him in the middle of the night. He'll yell a lot. And I haven't seen a lot of that energy and yelling from Nick Caley as well. And my hope is while they're in Greenbrier, both of those two guys, because Nick Caley's a first-time play caller, passing game coordinator for the LA Rams in 2024, but this is his first time fully calling plays. If one of the things that a lot of us liked and you can hang your hat on was the energy that he brings, that needs to continue to be there, because at times he's going to have to be the one that is going to have to hype his guys up and hype himself up, being a first-time play caller, and CJ's energy. So right now I think those two are just kind of figuring out what works best for them. What's going to be unfair to them is the fact that has nothing to do with the other 31 teams in the NFL. That has nothing to do with the other 15 teams in the AFC. That has nothing to do with them. That has nothing to do with anybody else in the division trying to go get that AFC South championship. Around the league, trying to knock them off. The Bills probably want to get back at them after last year, though they made it further in the playoffs. I get it. That has nothing to do with nobody else. The Texans made their decision in the offseason to move on from Bobby to go with the inexperienced play caller in Nick Caley. The Texans made their decision to trade Larry Tunsil to kind of get ahead of the contract extension talks and maybe, in my opinion, revamp how that offensive line room looks and operates. The Texans made their decision to do a lot of those things. And for a quarterback that has a lot of expectation, while we're going to be fair to you, the rest of the league ain't going to give a damn about it. And that's just completely being real. I will hang my hat on this. CJ is a very instinctual quarterback. And knowing where guys are going to be, I think, is one of his superpowers. Not an uber athletic quarterback, though we did see him pull it down in the playoffs, pick up a first down, or when he broke out the pocket after the fumble, made a play with his legs before finding Xavier Hutchinson down the field, who, by the way, I think has been better than John Mechie during training camp to this point as a receiver. Knowing where guys are going to be at, knowing the spots, I think it's one of his superpowers. And I don't think he's comfortable yet in this offense. The first 6 weeks, preseason is going to be important. First 6 weeks of the regular season will be very critical for this offense as they continue to try to create the chemistry, to get on the same page, and find a groove about themselves. Now, where is the confidence level for this team days away from preseason, from their first preseason game? That matters, and will tell us a lot about the depth of this team and a better look at the current new direction. So is it time to panic? More on the Locked On Texans podcast to close out today's show. This is the perfect time to talk to you about Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're having growing pains, saving, or if you're planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Let me tell you one thing I like about Monarch Money. Me and my wife, we have goals, right? I want a new car. I want a truck. But I can't just go out there and make a rash decision. No, I can't do that. We have to plan, and Monarch Money has helped us plan together. That's what I like about it the most, honestly, guys. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and with your partner. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Again, visit monarchmoney.com. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Camp hasn't been as fun as a lot of us may, want it to be. Not a lot of pizzazz, not a lot of flash, not a lot of, oh my gosh, did you see that catch he made? Not a lot of that, though. Christian Kirk, I think, of all of the receivers, especially the newcomers, I think Christian Kirk has probably been the best receiver on the field for training camp to this point. I'm not saying he's the best receiver on the team, but from practices, Christian Kirk has kind of been the most reliable player out there for the Houston Texans, which is a good thing. With Kirk has been known throughout his career to be a reliable option for young quarterbacks figuring it out. So you like to hear that. That's a good thing for CJ Stroud and his growing pains. Kirk will be open, and when he's open, he can make a play. He can pick up a third down. He can keep the drives alive. Is it time to panic? Before I dive into that, DeMeco Ryans mentioned the running backs in attendance. Seems like Woody Marks is winning over Ryans and the coaching staff. Ryan said Woody Marks has stepped up and stepped in, and he's made some really nice runs over the past couple of days. That he has. Also, sophomore running back Jawar Jordan, he mentioned that he's playing fast, and it shows. Titus Howard played right tackle during a portion, actually after the first play of the first team drills. They moved him over to right tackle when Cam Robinson went down. Ryan's mentioned that Titus is just an unselfish player, and that he's an unselfish player that does whatever the team is asking of him to do. He also mentioned that we've seen this in OTAs. We've seen it throughout training camp, so there's no different, no extra news. Shout out to DeMeco Ryans kind of downplaying it. Now, is it time to panic? Is it time? Panicking means regretting hiring first-year play caller Nick Haley. Panicking means regretting hiring in-house keeping Cole Popovich. Panicking means, in some degree, admitting this team is not ready to make a deep playoff run this year, but also coming to terms that, hey, maybe this is a 2 to 3 year process, which some people might think is a mistake, but this is the NFL. Things change every year. You have to operate within the window that you're given, and that changes year in and year out. I think that's something that Nick Caserio has emphasized since his time in Houston, especially since DeMeco Ryans has arrived. The answer is, it is way too early to panic, but not too early to keep it real. And keeping it real is understanding that this was a team that made moves to keep their core guys happy and together on a roster for a 2 to 3 year window. This offensive system was always meant to take time to get down and learn. Keeping it real means panicking before a preseason game is unfair to the fan base. You guys got to come down just a little bit. I'm not trying to get rid of your optimism. I'm not also trying to get rid of any pessimism. I'm not trying to get rid of anything, but before we get to the first preseason game, it is very unfair to yourselves, but more so it's unfair to the team. They have to go out there and play and compete against other teams before we can make any of these assumptions. And those assumptions, whenever we make them, needs to be fair. I know reports from camp have been, not the most encouraging, or most of those reports have not favored the offense, and I understand that, but I don't think we can judge before we see them get on the field for a real game. But we can be concerned. I was on KHOU last night, Sunday night, Sports Extra, and I think why this is concerning is because a lot of what we see, a lot of what we've heard, a lot of the reports that we're reading seem extremely familiar. It's because we read and heard and saw a lot of these issues back in 2024 in late July, mid to late July, in August last year. That's why it's been so concerning for me, because while everybody else is getting better, I'm going to say the defense got better. When you add CJ Gardner-Johnson, who just came off a Super Bowl run, and credit to him, he mentioned, I'm chasing, I'm hunting another Super Bowl. I ain't trying to defend nothing. I'm not with that team no more. But the defense got better. But there were no real question marks about the defense after 2024 year. They made some mistakes here and there, questionable moments. But with every mistake, whatever questionable moment that we can point back to, there's always going to be, well, how long were they on the field in this quarter? Did they just force a 3 and out but have to go right back on the field? At any point of the game, did the offense uphold their side of the ball and score more than 3 points after getting down in the red zone area? That's why it's concerning. That's why the focus from the first training camp, from OTAs to the first training camp till now, till Saturday, to the next preseason, and after that, the focus was going to be the offense, because essentially the offense is what let the Houston Texans down in 2024. And the frustration is, will that happen again in 2025? There has not been a clear, concise, no, it will not happen in 2025. That is the past. Yes, it will happen in 2025, and buckle up for more frustration and heartache. And I will say this before we get to that Saturday's preseason game. I am of the mindset that the Houston Texans offense needs a day where we read those reports from Jonathan Alexander, DJ Bieniemy, Sam Warren, guys that are out there, boots on the ground, covering this team, where they come on and they tell us the offense won the day. Some sort of shut the hell up media and fans and worrying fans. We got this type of day. I want to see it. I don't know about you guys. I want to see and read and hear that from the Houston Texans time in Greenbrier, because that signals, it should signal that, hey, the offense is starting to come together. Your quarterback is now operating in from a place of instinct, and an instinct cerebral quarterback, especially operating in an offensive system that at one point has similarities to a instinctual cerebral quarterback in New England for 20 years. That is going to be dangerous, and that can answer a lot of these questions that we have concerns about. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Worrying fans out there, I get it. I understand it completely. It's okay to be concerned. Let's hold off on that red button, that panic button. It's not panic time just yet, but every day I will be covering your team every day here on the Locked On Texans podcast. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texan fans across the nation, peace.